From Brussels, Thomas Klau of the European Council on Foreign Relations. We hope to be able to go back to Warsaw later and join Jakub Kumak of the Polish Institute of International Affairs. We're looking at Poland and Russia beyond the tragedy of Saturday's plane crash, also the tragedy of the weight of history.
Flags at half-mast over the Kremlin as Russia shows its compassion for the victims of Saturday's air crash. And the country seems to be going all out in its efforts to help Poland uncover the cause of the accident that killed its president, Lech Kaczynski. Prime Minister Vladimir Putin's personally taken a hand, seeing Kaczynski's body repatriated, meeting with Polish counterpart Donald Tusk at the crash site, and heading up the ongoing investigation.
How have you been dealing with your Polish colleagues?
We've divided ourselves into two groups. One is working here at the crash site. We've responded to all the Polish requests. The other group is working in Moscow.
After years of friction, avoiding any new tension with Poland is high on Moscow's list of priorities. Kaczynski, a staunch anti-communist, had kept relations with Russia at arm's length for years. The visit was the first time a Polish delegation had been invited to Russia to mark the Katyn massacre, the murder of more than 22,000 Polish officers by the Soviets during the Second World War. Kaczynski's aircraft crashed on Russian soil, and authorities there now want to show they can hold a fast and transparent inquiry. Russians have turned out to show their sympathy for Poland, and the country's marking a day of mourning, a sign of compassion for one of Moscow's partners, and an influential country from the former Soviet bloc, now at the heart of the European Union.
Marek, I want to read to you what Yaroslav Kurski of Gazeta Wyborcza wrote in a column that was published in today's Guardian. Authentic reconciliation between Poles and Russians, just like that of French and Germans under Charles de Gaulle and Konrad Adenauer, has now become possible.
Well, maybe it's a wishful thinking. Maybe it's something that it is not bad, in fact. This is a good thing, the reconciliation. It's better than aggression and being at odds. What is not right, what is not correct about the late President Kaczynski is that he was only anti-Russian. I didn't support his opinions, but we need to, in an honest way, make a separation. He was a patriot, very much national patriot, and he was anti-Russian as well as anti-German, as well as anti-European. Okay, and I think that at the moment when people they say, there is a title in La Croix, the Catholic French newspaper, Poles united in prayer, and this could be such a moment in which Poland is united. Donald Tusk is a much more open-minded man, and he understands that in policy there is no place for sentiments. So let's have good relations with Russians. Why not? But it's a very wrong and rough ride.
Do you agree that I heard one Polish analyst this weekend say that what killed Kaczynski was the fact that he refused to go last week for the first ceremony? We wouldn't have had this tragedy if he hadn't refused to go.
I will just answer to you with the saying of Denis Diderot, Jimmy de Fatal: everything is written there. But the point is that we can reverse the situation. If everything goes very well between Tusk and Kaczynski, then there would be no president in Poland, but there would be no president and no prime minister, because prime minister would be in the same plane as president.
Let me put this question to you, George Frederick Dewsbury. The current situation right now, is it in view of what's happened in the past in Polish-Russian relations? Do you agree with a reconciliation for good has now become possible of the ashes of this terrible tragedy?
I think the emotion of an event like this is so overwhelming that people say things which, as Marek said, is wishful thinking. I think we have to understand that a month from now, when the emotion's gone, the objective realities, like Lenin used to say, are going to be there. There's going to be the problem of energy. There's going to be the problem of NATO. There's going to be the problem of the Patriot missiles coming in from the United States. And at that time, we can think more forcefully about this. The thing I want to bring up is that Putin and Medvedev are essentially trying to recreate what Gorbachev wanted in the common European homeland, which is a Europe without the United States presence. And since the European Union is incapable of having a foreign policy, at least at this moment, Moscow is doing a very good job of doing bilateral contracts with each country independently. And this is not a bad thing. It's smart for the Russians to do. But I think we should see the overall goal, which is the reduction of the American presence in Europe, for better or for worse.
And also the decrease of European Union position. This is the old Roman rule, divide impera, divide and rule. And this is what they do with the help of Berlusconi and the characters like him.
All right, we were having technical problems earlier. We're going to try to go to Jakub Kumak in the Polish capital outside the presidential palace, where it's quite loud. Where you are, what's the feeling of Polish people towards Russians after this tragedy?
Remember that the attitude of Poles, despite certain levels of Russophobia, which were unfortunately kind of a part of describing this process, it's not true. Poles and Russians are very close people, very close nations, and in their human plane, there were always very good relations between Poles and Russians. So the attitude, if you ask any of the people who are here, if you ask them if the Russians did a good job, and they really reacted properly, seeing this tragedy, probably everybody here will be touched and moved by the attitude of the Russian authorities. And well,